She won't confront you outright, at least not initially. She won't wave a weapon, raise her tone, or rage with dramatic threats. Instead, she'll smile gently, postpone things, softly object, shift her stance unexpectedly, and quietly observe how you handle the subtle force she exerts. That's her first trial. And if you fail, there won't be conflictingly quiet submission. Because the moment a man compromises his stance, sacrifices his time, and reasons only to gain a woman's approval, he forfeits something more valuable than her admiration. He loses control over himself. Machiavelli once said, "He who becomes the ruler of a city, accustomed to liberty and fails to dismantle it, will himself be destroyed by it." And so it becomes clear why many men lose everything. They pursue women without confronting fantasies. They try to lead without questioning loyalty. They attempt to guard a throne without assessing the court. Thus, they fall prey to what they refuse to examine. Let's be real. Women are not inherently erratic. They are strategic not out of malice, but because survival necessitates it. A woman who cannot gauge a man's strength cannot endure. From the moment you open your mouth, she isn't just hearing your words, she's probing your reasons. She watches how you react when she's late, how fast you excuse broken promises, how eagerly you accept contradictions. What you call kindness or patience, she may see as frailty. And Machiavelli warned, "A prince lacking cunning cannot be wisely advised." This is where you falter, man. You assume your eagerness to please earns affection. But as Machiavelli noted, it is far safer to be feared than loved if one must choose. Remember this, a woman might love a man she can sway, but she holds lasting respect for the one she cannot manipulate. And it is respect, not sentiment, that sustains loyalty. In the realm of influence, every reaction to defiance is scrutinized. She's latato, you shift your plans or reinforce your expectations. She brings up her ex, do you waver or remain indifferent? She dismisses your views, do you stand firm or seek her approval? Each exchange becomes a measure of your strength, and she's not the only one watching. If you think this is just a game, you've missed the point. This is not about charm. This is about self-rule. A man who won't challenge a woman is like a monarch who never inspects his frontiers. He will be breached, used, and dethroned often without sensing the first threat. Why? Because he mistook her smile for security. Yet Machiavelli warned, appearances are often false. Everyone sees your surface. Few witness your core. And women, perhaps more than anyone, are experts at seeming sweet while probing your resolve. She may giggle at your humor and call you charming, even as she edges past your limits like a foreign power testing your line of defense. She won't ask, "Can I control you?" She will simply try. And the instant you yield, you've shown her exactly who you are, not the authority, but the subordinate. You were never trained to challenge. You were trained to trust. You were taught that love is earned through kindness, consistency, and support. That a good woman will recognize your worth if you just treat her right. But Machiavelli would scoff at that belief. Because in every realm where power is involved, only the naive begin with virtue. A man who lives completely in accordance with his ideals of goodness, Machiavelli wrote, is bound to perish among those who are not good. You weren't born into comfort. You were born into assessment. And a woman, even the gentlest among them, doesn't love you for being kind. She loves you for your gravity, for your capacity to resist, to declare, to stay rooted through her emotional turbulence. If she weeps, do you crumble? If she disrespects, do you pursue? If she vanishes, do you wait like a loyal dog, or continue like a man whose purpose never revolved around her validation? These are her evaluations unspoken, yet woven like invisible wires into each exchange. She never announces them, because she doesn't need to. She observes your reactions to silence, discomfort, disagreement. She watches how easily you compromise your values just to preserve her smile. And when you do, the smile remains but the respect disappears. This is why so many men lose their influence, without hearing a single no. She just grows distant, colder, less engaged, less affectionate. You're confused by the shift, but the truth is simple. She saw your softness, and now she cannot forget it. Machiavelli advised leaders to present the image of virtue, not always the practice of it. It is good to appear merciful, loyal, humane, devout, and honest, he wrote. And also to be so, but only when it serves necessity. When necessity requires it, that's what modern men overlook. You live in a time where emotional openness is celebrated, but rarely rewarded, where men who reveal too much too soon aren't appreciated, they're quietly dismissed. This is why you must test not to dominate, not to retaliate, but to gain clarity. You must find out, is she with you because you bend or because you don't? Is her loyalty genuine or is it conditional, dependent on your constant compliance? You won't find answers in ease, you'll discover them when you disrupt expectations. Say no and watch what shifts. Withdraw attention and observe what remains. Speak your truth and notice the silence. A woman who is grounded and emotionally mature won't be shaken by your principles. She may get upset, but she will respect them. Yet a woman driven by the need to control cannot stand a man she cannot sway. And this is where many men falter, not for lack of strength, but for lack of resolve to wield it. You've conditioned yourself to appease. You were raised to believe that standing firm leads to rejection. But the truth is far less comforting. Pleasing ensures rejection, while resistance uncovers integrity. Let me say that again. Pleasing ensures rejection, and resistance reveals true character. The Machiavellian man doesn't plead. He doesn't justify. He watches. He withholds. He evaluates. Because anything that cannot endure scrutiny isn't worth holding on to. And anything that breaks under pressure was never solid to begin with. A woman will never explicitly tell you what she respects. She will show it only by what she chooses to stay for. She might claim to want a gentle man but vanish the moment you put her emotions above your principles. She may insist she values truth and explode when your honesty doesn't match her fantasy. That's why every test must be quiet, not declared, not justified, but carried out. Because only in silence does her instinct respond. And instinct is what Machiavelli studied more rigorously than emotion. He didn't write for those seeking affection. He wrote for those seeking command. And his warning was specific. The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men around him. In your case, the same rule applies. You want to measure your worth? Look at the woman beside you, not her beauty, but how she reacts when you say no. If she's only tender when you are, only close when it suits her, only affectionate when you yield, then you're not respected. You're simply being endured until something more thrilling arrives. The test isn't about retribution. It's about revelation. If you ask nothing of her, she'll reveal nothing. If you overlook every red flag, she'll raise more. But the moment you demand clarity, withdraw ease without warning, and utter a calm, firm no, her script disappears. The performance ends, and her essence emerges. Will she adjust or lash out? Will she step up or shut down? Will she contribute or guilt you with debts? Her response is your answer. Machiavelli's rule still holds. It is not titles that honor men, but men who bring honor to titles. Respect isn't in the label, it's in how you carry yourself when tested. Now ask yourself, how rare is this kind of resolve? Most men collapse the instant discomfort arises. They interpret tears as truth. They mistake instability for passion. They excuse mistreatment under the guise of love. But Machiavelli would remind them, promises were necessary in the past. Breaking them becomes necessary in the present. She vowed to love you when you seemed like a man. But when you gave in to her moods, allowed manipulation, and made her comfort your mission, she broke that vow. And she was right to, because you broke the image of strength. And still, most men continue on the same path. They double down on reassurance, assuming she's just going through something. They take on roles as emotional caretakers, counselors, servants then, mistake that for masculinity. But a Machiavellian man does not nurture dysfunction. He filters it quietly, coldly, without trying to fix or redeem what has already revealed its nature. She doesn't need more affection. She needs a reflection. And if you are worthy, you must become that mirror, steady, composed, demanding only honesty, and walking away from anything less. Don't confuse her silence with surrender. A woman rarely lashes out when you begin to test her. She watches. She recalibrates. She may even grow gentler for a moment, but beneath the sweetness lies calculation. She's trying to determine whether your newfound strength is real, temporary, or strategic. Because the moment you draw a line, you declare war on the version of her that thrived before. And now, she must decide, evolve or escalate. If she escalates with guilt, withdrawal, dramatics, or emotional chill, you must stay unmoved. This is where most men lose everything. They test once, receive pushback, and immediately retreat. They confuse discomfort with a signal to fold, but Machiavelli warned, injuries must be inflicted all at once, so they do not continue to offend. Meaning, if you're going to assert dominance, do it wholly, immediately, without second guessing. Don't set boundaries one week, only to cave the next. Inconsistency invites disorder, and disorder is her native terrain. Understand this. Her resistance to your boundaries isn't the issue. Her reaction to your consistency reveals the truth. Any woman can keep her composure for a short time. But what does she do the third time you say no? How does she react when you ignore her outbursts, when you flip the script from entertain me to earn your place? Most will recoil. Some will vanish. A few, the rare ones, will adjust. And those are the ones to observe slowly, attentively, never with blind trust, but with growing insight. This is the Machiavellian stance. A wise man must always walk the paths of those who ruled before and study the methods of the great. You're not inventing new ways to test, you're perfecting timeless ones. You don't announce your standards. You uphold them silently. And you don't compromise them for beauty, empty promises, or your own loneliness. Because the test isn't just hers, it's yours. Can you go without affection long enough to see her clearly? Can you resist intimacy, praise, and emotional comfort until her mask comes off? Most men cannot. They say they want truth but fold after one night of cold silence. They say they want a queen but kneel before anyone offering attention. But Machiavelli would remind them, men are driven by two primary forces, love or fear. If your connection is governed by your fear of losing her, then it is not love, it is submission. You can't lead a woman you're afraid to upset. You can't protect a woman if your sense of purpose depends on her. And you can't evaluate a woman if her reaction matters more than your own peace of mind. So you begin with the basics. Cancel a plan. Say no. Stay silent when she's fishing for validation. Let her manage her emotions without offering your energy as a remedy. And then you observe not with hope, but with distance. Not to punish, but to understand. This is the discipline of a prince. Not because it's cruel, but because it's the only path to lead without being subdued. The woman you refuse to test is the one who will slowly unmake you gently with affection, intimacy, and 1,000 quiet permissions you handed over without noticing you were giving up control. One confrontation you avoided. One boundary you overlooked. One apology you didn't owe. She never had to raise her voice. You traded your backbone for her attention and called it love. But the woman who passes your test, she won't idolize you. She won't put you on a pedestal. She'll stand beside you, and when challenged, she'll hold her ground. Not out of fear, but from respect for a man who doesn't flinch. That's the rare kind of woman. And you won't find her unless you learn to filter with restraint and endure in silence. Because everything that feels perfect at the start can become a trap. The praise, the warmth, the way she seems to truly understand you. Machiavelli once wrote, "The vulgar crowd is always taken by appearances, and the world is mostly made up of such people." That is the modern man's tragedy. He looks, he assumes, he invests in by the time he realizes he was chosen for his weakness, not his strength. It's too late. You're paying not for choosing the wrong woman, but for refusing to test her. And now, the decision is yours. You can move on and return to a fantasy where love is pure, where effort is all it takes, where boundaries are cruel, and women are blameless. Or you can begin. You can test her silence, test her anger, test her consistency, test her gratitude, test her response to being told no. Because any woman who can't withstand pressure doesn't deserve your effort. And any man who avoids testing is already defeated. If this truth struck something within you, something you didn't want to face, then share it. Spread this message, support this movement, and help awaken others. Every time you pass it forward, another man wakes up in time. And that might be the most Machiavellian move of awakening the kingdom before it falls. This was Machiavelli's method. Test before surrender. Now test everything and trust no appearance.